I don't see a great change. I think the EU has big problems in other areas at the moment. I think attention is focused on that. I also think that the present commissioner, or commissioners, plural, responsible for drug policy, are going to steer on maybe a less ambitious and less balanced course. I don't think that will have a great effect on the policies of the member states. You might see a change of tone in political public statements by member states, but I think that the underlying relatively balanced and civilized approach of the European Union will probably not change fundamentally. One example of how things change lower down the scale without reference to Brussels is, for instance, that in the Basque, the government of the Basque country in Spain is currently looking at new, more liberal legislation on cannabis. Same thing in other countries which are federal or where regional authorities have greater authority than in centralized countries.
Okay. And the European Commission, which direction do you think they will move towards?
I think the European Commission is concentrating on legislation on drugs, which by the nature of the Lisbon Treaty will be more focused on justice and supply reduction issues. I think at the moment the European Commission is less interested in being like an initiator and a provider of assistance for policy making.
Oh, okay.
The debate on harm reduction is a bit like a theological debate. People get very incensed when it's used, and the enormous amount of time is invested in either including it or excluding it from political statements. The reality behind it is that harm reduction goes on at grassroots level, at almost all levels where people are dealing with drugs, with people affected by drugs. It is a generalized practice. It is a WHO approved practice around the world. The reduction in financing will definitely affect all kinds of public health activities. Hopefully not too much. I think the problem with harm reduction, as we've seen very clearly with Italy in the last few years, is that it is just a political hang-up that some governments have, without that actually affecting the practice of the professionals very much. We should not allow ourselves to be spooked, to be too bothered by the fact that, okay, we're going through an economic crisis now. One day we will be through the economic crisis, and we must make sure that what we built up during the good years is not lost during the bad years. You have to look after what you've constructed, what you've built up, and keep your focus on that.